of course, being in business and being conservative, skeptical, due diligence oriented, results, facts, statistics only, it didn't take me but a few days to think, well, I wonder if they went somewhere else. And then I'm thinking, I wonder if they're going to come back. I mean, that's what these kind of things do with conventional medicine. So I studied as long as I could, and I had moments where I felt really pretty good doing this instrument daily. After about another 4 weeks went by, I just couldn't stand it any longer. I drove out to Jim's office and I said, hey, I think it's time to do another look at my blood. Prick my finger and let's. He said, well, you don't need to. You're doing fine. I said, yeah, I'm doing fine, but I'm not sure. I just want to see. So he put my blood up on the slide and it came up, and where I had these white rot mass areas 4, 5, 6 weeks before, they started filling in, kind of brownish with a little greenish hue around the edges. And I didn't understand completely what it meant, but I could see the difference. I have not seen that kind of difference in blood work working with a lot of people over a number of years, ever. I was excited because it was my blood, but I was amazed that anybody's blood would do that. And so I was really positive again. I went home and I kept doing this every day. Well, again, another few weeks go by, and that was in July, and I started in May. And so by September, I'm thinking, maybe that was just a temporary improvement. So I go back to him again. I said, hey, I'd like to see my blood again. He said, well, why? I said, well, you know, I'm just curious. I just want another picture. So we did it, put it up there, and now I have this bubbly, rich red blood with no white rot mass areas, all of it filled in, just normal-looking blood, and I am amazed beyond belief. Well, needless to say, a few of my friends noticed my overall improvement. The doctors that I went to who worked with me on my original diagnosis, I had gone back to, and they said, well, we don't know what you're doing, but whatever you're doing, you just need to keep it up. And I couldn't tell them. In the last year, from doing this every day, other health benefits have happened. Things about my system have improved. It's just amazing how the circuitry that this genius has developed will regenerate your system. And I have learned in the last few months from doctors in the clinical setting who've used this on every kind of thing you can imagine. They're all getting results. I read the statistics of the long-term survival rate of cancer patients in this country. It's 3%. And you can wish and dream and believe and hope all you want that it'll be better because your mother, your wife, your daughter, your cousin has it, and you want them to survive, but wanting ain't going to make them survive. And guess what? All the technology, all the medicine, all the orthodox therapies in the world are working on it, and their survival rate is 3%. The doctors who've been using Ed Skilling's equipment for the last 20-something years, their survival rate is 80%. The interesting thing is the majority of the people who use Ed Skilling's equipment also get rid of things that the doctors couldn't even diagnose. They just disappear. I have a doctor, a chiropractor in Phoenix that got an instrument, and his massage therapist that worked with him, when he was younger, developed these blotches, kind of white patches on his skin. It was just kind of a skin disorder. And his parents have a lot of money, so they sent him to all of these practitioners, all of these dermatologists and all these institutes, and they couldn't figure out what it was. They couldn't diagnose it, so they couldn't treat it. And they tried all these drugs and therapies and creams and topical and internal. Never went away. Matter of fact, every year that went by, it got worse, and it had spread to the point where I noticed them on his arms. Well, he, incidental to this chiropractor getting the instrument, started doing it every day because he found out that it really makes you just feel better. And after 6 weeks, these blotches started going away. And now you can't see any of them anywhere on his body. Nobody understands. Nobody needs to understand. This is one happy camper. Now, it didn't appear to be life-threatening, but it was interfering with his life. He couldn't go to a swimming pool. He couldn't go outside. He couldn't do anything. He couldn't wear shorts or short-sleeve shirts. So what we have here, Ed Skilling has really developed something that's very powerful. It completely innervates your system. You know, the two main things that this does is it relaxes you completely, takes stress out of your system. It sweeps every cell of your body with pure energy, and your cells take to it like a duck to water. And at the same time, invigorates you and gives you more energy. There's nothing in medicine, herbs, vitamins, orthodox therapies at all that will make you more relaxed and give you more energy at the same time. You usually have to sacrifice one to get the other. This does both at exactly the same time. Ed Skilling worked 17 years for General Dynamics. He managed a team of 1,000 engineers. He pioneered and supervised the development of the first sea-to-air missile. This guy is a genius. And this he's been working on and developing systematically over the years for 50 years. He is recognized as the best in the world. And quite frankly, when it comes to my health, you're probably the same way. You only want to be messing around with the best. Thank you for your time.
I thought you might like to hear from somebody besides me. Okay, what it does, it reestablishes the frequency and harmonic energy state of each individual cell in the body. That's what the machine does. It takes care of pathogens, yeast, fungus, mold, bacteria, viruses, parasites. We had one practitioner in Oregon that said she didn't have any parasites. We put this on her colon. The next day she passed a whole ball of worms. Remember, if you ever take a stool sample for worms, make sure it's the full of the moon, because they don't come down except in the full of the moon. We've had patients and people that they claim they didn't have a bit of parasites in them, and then within 2 or 3 days after we start therapy on them, out comes all these worms and ugly looking things. It breaks up blockages, takes care of lymph. Most of you know that there's more lymph in the body than there is blood. It needs to be drained, and the only way that it even moves is when you move. It stimulates the immune system, reduces and eliminates, in 90% of the cases, pain, ozonates the body, reestablishes the cells into a normal frequency. In fact, it's what kept me going. Let me talk a little bit about your lymph. Most of your lymph is under your arms. When they do a mastectomy on a woman, they'll take out 27 of her lymph glands, and they take away her immune system. The biggest problem I've had with people that I usually don't like to take anybody that's had chemo, because their body, their immune system is gone. It's not hard to get rid of the tumors, in effect, but it's really rough to get them back to where their immune system will respond again. This technology we're doing has kind of been pioneered by Ed, myself, and Lakosky. He made a great big machine of wires and so forth, and he was sending people back in about 1910, 1912 between it, and it was getting most of them well. It does your whole room. It goes out effectively about 40 feet. And I think that's one reason my girls like to work in my clinic. The ladies I have, they always feel good because they're always getting around these and taking them off people. And people come in and tell them, oh, I'm feeling good. That's the first time I felt good in years. You found out what was wrong and what to do. What we're doing is we've got a method to regenerate and take care of the infection. The biggest problem first is to get rid of the infection. I might mention, too, that most of you have been going to dentists, and most of them up into the recent times, at least in my lifetime, were putting mercury in the teeth, 50% in the tooth. Now, 40% of the dentists nationally are not using mercury anymore. But I find that about 60% of everybody that came into me, at least on their tests, they had mercury poisoning. And then they've added fluoride to the water, which is a rat poison. If you want brain damage, use fluoride. And I found that if you have root canals and they're infected, or you have an abscess on your tooth, if you put the tubes up here for 2 or 3 times, it'll kill the abscess, the infection in the abscess or the infection in the root canal. I have a lot of dentists that are using this now. Just put them up here. Yeah, on the outside. Or you can do it on the inside, but I like to do it on the outside, because when I had this abscess, I have a dentist in our office, and when I put it up there, he says, you're going to have a root canal. 2 days later, the infection was all gone. There was no soreness or anything. You wouldn't believe it. But that's how effective these are. Maybe we need to field some questions. There was a couple of you that had questions.
Fibromyalgia and chronic fatigue, will it take care of that?
It takes about 3 weeks to get them over fibromyalgia is usually pain in the extremities, and it's usually caused by constipation or poisons. And the old naturopaths used to say that death starts in the colon. And what happens is you're getting pain shooting up in here because of the infection, because you're not eliminating enough. I have women that come into me that they tell them it's all right to have one bowel movement a week, and they got 15 pounds of crap in them. What happened was I was dying in the early 70s from cancer, and I couldn't hardly walk. I still have a little residue from that.
That everything in the body's electrical, but it's also magnetic, isn't it?
Well, magnets are electrical frequencies coming out. The only thing I advise is do not sleep on a magnetic bed. They're great for about an hour or two, but don't sleep on them all the time. It ruins your aura balance around your body. Go ahead.
Will this also take and work on stuff like arthritis, where the calcium deposits?
It takes the pain out.
Okay.
And it also moves the lymph, which is part of the reason you have arthritis, because of a blockage of the lymph. Questions?
The regeneration that you talked about of the cells, do you have any experience regenerating brain cells after a stroke?
Yes. Also, if you'll notice, you can use these tubes up on your, let's say you have fungus. Usually fungus starts in the ears, and you can put the tubes up on the ears here and kill the fungus. And also you can stimulate all the acupuncture points. You remember the ears are like a baby upside down. I believe that mentally causes a lot of problems, okay? We get stressed, we have husband or wife problems, we're getting chemically poisoned. 90% of the food in the store is not good for you, 50% of the food in the health food store is not good for you. You need an instrument, and that's the reason for Survive and Thrive. Thank you very much. Bob, thanks for inviting me. Thank you.